Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Package Group weekly sync for August 23rd, 2021. Steve has the first item, but since he's not attending, I'll read for him. Working hours are slightly changing on Tuesdays. Will be available until 3 p.m. Mountain Time or 9 p.m. UTC earlier on Tuesday and Wednesday for some more overlap with EMEA. So that's cool. And then I have the next item, just a celebration for us. Good work, everyone, on the error budget. We are under our budget, which is pretty great. I'll link to the dashboard here for anyone watching along at home, but it's got green colors on it. It's very good. So lots of work from everyone getting that addressed. So thank you very much. Over to you, David.
Yeah, thanks. So this one is from feedback we received on some registries, and this feedback made me wonder if we ever considered to release a new package registry, which means supporting a new package type, but using a incremental rollout with users that are like power users of the package type. I'm asking because obviously implementing a new package type is quite complex. You can have many different configurations on how you configure the registry, how it is used, how the packages are pulled, and well, during the implementation, we can I guess, miss some of those configurations. And then we test everything. We try to push a package, pull a package, everything works. We announce that the feature is now available, and users will start to use that new package type, and well, they will get frustrated or they will lose perhaps a bit of trust in the GitLab package registry because there is a behavior that is unexpected or a bug or whatever. So I was wondering if we ever thought about rolling out a package registry in an incremental way, perhaps with a feature flag. Sorry, that was a really long question.
Well, I'm wondering, I don't know if you want to verbalize that, Joel, or that was more of a...
Yeah, I think David is referring to the Helm charts registry specifically. I think this is a weird case because there is no standard for Helm registries, unlike for NPM, gems, all of those have pretty strict specifications and standard tools in place. It's not the case for Helm, which means that GitLab is trying to fill a niche where there is no hard rules, so everyone is doing things differently, and therefore there will always be users asking for different behaviors because no one set in a single approach. So I think in this case, at least for me, what would make more sense is survey those power users before starting the implementation so that we can have their opinion in mind, because once you do the implementation, now you have different users asking you the registry to behave in different ways because they use different tools. Each one of those does things differently. So if we can anticipate that before we start the implementation, we can spare some work, I think.
So my question was more general about any support we would have. It also comes from a feedback we have in, I think it's the Conan registry. I read a story about a user advocating for the GitLab package registry, and then it turned out that it didn't work the way they wanted. And so like his team lost trust on using the GitLab package registry, and now, well, they're using something else because it's not working for them. And yeah, I was wondering, how do you balance between releasing a new package registry, which is kind of a big thing, but at the same time not lose too much user trust and try to minimize the UX frustrations they can have. Also,
Yeah.
perhaps this is a quite general question, if it is worth investigating that. I can create an issue on the package team tracker, I guess. That would be the best location.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like there's a general set of questions, like particularly around configuration, whether, like you mentioned, allowing duplicates, which may or may not be an option, or it may be required by a standard, right? If we're clear with our users on that, and it's part of setup, those are the sorts of things of like onboarding into the package registry that we'd want to document. I'm not sure where losers use trust. Like we do have bugs, like we're not perfect. I don't think we can expect to be perfect, but we certainly should be in a position where when users join, they have at least some expectations that we can meet and we improve over time. So I don't know if we have a onboarding checklist of like, hey, do you want to enable duplicates here or there? Here's how to do it. Here are the other things you want to consider. So it sounds like creating an issue would be a good place to chat about it. An onboarding guide might be something to consider for customers as they're starting to use it, that sort of explains some of these things that people have run into that may be where we do have slightly unexpected behavior. And then a feature consideration of whether we have all of those things exposed and documented in the configuration and then documented for people as they're starting to use it. I think I'm really curious. You've mentioned a couple of things, and maybe a couple of examples have come up, but it sounds like there's probably more than that. And whether we have a good sense of what those things are is probably what I'd be interested in trying to figure out. I mean, again, I don't think we can know all of them, but certainly we should make an effort to figure out what they are and prepare users as they join and start using the product. I'm sure Tim would be very interested in this particular subject as well. Hi, Tim, if you're watching. Hope you're enjoying your holidays. Yeah, so I think an issue is a good place to start, David, and we can start sort of maybe making examples of the things that have come up, and then we can start sort of deciding whether it's a documentation, whether it's a configuration, whether it's just like something else that we need to communicate. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, works for me.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Any other comments, people, or anything people wanted to share?
Conan, I remember talking to Steve about it, and he said that it's still changing a bit. Is that correct? So I think that might be a common thread with the Helm registry and the Conan registry is there's not, as Zhao said, something you can point to and say it should work like this, you know. So I think can be a bit of difficulty because you do have to make a decision somewhere if there's no guidance from spec. So it's harder to justify a decision that you've made yourself or, you know, as a company rather than saying, oh, we have to conform to this spec. So I'm wondering if there's, this is a longer term goal, but if there's standardization efforts that we can support, if that's a possibility. This doesn't solve our immediate problem, but it could help down the line.
Yeah. Excuse me. Thanks for that, Haley. I mean, that's probably worth something putting in the issue as well, David. I agree with Haley. If we don't have any clear standard on things, then it's worth pointing that out to users as they join. If they're like, we expect this behavior, and we're like, well, that's cool, but like there is no standard, so we kind of have to make some considerations for ourselves and implement what we think best works with GitLab. And maybe there's an alternate you know, whether it's duplicates or some other sort of thing that is sort of a decision, a product decision as we're building it, or an engineering decision in implementation terms. Definitely worth something to put in there as well. Yeah, cool. Joan, do you want to? Oh yeah, okay, I see the comment there. Yeah, so maybe David, if you could create that issue and then share it with the team, and we can sort of start figuring out where the variances come in. One of those, as Haley mentioned, is, you know, whether there's an active, like a solid spec, and I think Joan mentioned it as well. If there's a solid spec, we can point people to that and say, well, this is actually how it works. But as we have learnt in a couple of areas, just because there's a spec doesn't mean everyone implements it the way they ought to. Some of these things are open to interpretation. So definitely something to be thinking about here of like, hey, here's our interpretation. This is the spec. Here's our interpretation of it. This is why it behaves this way. If you would like some other behavior, that's cool, but maybe a feature request, blah, 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 something like that. But at least to have stated these things as clearly as possible is a good thing, I think. Sorry, I'm just reading. Moving on to the next thing. Does anyone else have any comments here before we move on? No, sweet. All right. Just wanted to call out quickly. Remember, everyone, we have 360 feedback. We're in that cycle right now. So early September, I think it's the 5th or sometime around then in September. I keep forgetting the actual date. I apologize. But if you've been nominated for 360 feedback, please provide that feedback. I've heard estimates of being like an hour to sit down and do it. But remember, you don't have to answer for people who you don't feel comfortable giving solid feedback, who you haven't worked with. So sort of start with the core team that you work with regularly, and then go out from there as you feel comfortable providing feedback. And you also don't have to answer every single question. It's better to give some feedback that's useful to people than it is to sort of try to be 100% complete. I mean, hashtag iteration. So cool. If no one else has any other comments or any other topics to consider, that's the end of our agenda. Cool, awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks everyone for following along at home. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. See ya. Oh, my blur.